The children tricked the old mother into a nursing home. This is how the old lady responded to them. Lydia Petrovna is a middle-aged American mother, a woman who has devoted her entire life to nurturing and caring for her children with boundless love. Since her children were little, Lydia has never stopped sacrificing everything to protect and nurture them, always wishing for them to grow up in a family filled with love and care. In her mind, the most natural thing was that when old age came, the children would be the ones by her side, taking care of her and compensating for what she had done for them when they were young. Lydia is the kind of mother who is gentle and tender, yet very resilient. She always believes that love is the unbreakable bond that ties the family together. She sees in her children's eyes the continuation of herself, and she places her complete trust in them. She believes that, just as she has always devoted everything to taking care of them, her children will do the same for her when she grows old. The relationship between Lydia and her children is always warm and full of bonding. She has a grown, intelligent son and a gentle, beautiful daughter. Both are her pride, and throughout their growing years, she was always by their side, guiding and supporting each step of their journey. The mother-child bond between Lydia and her children has never faded, even though they have grown up and have their own lives. Every morning, seeing them still living under her roof, Lydia feels a clear sense of peace and happiness. In Lydia's heart, nothing is more precious than family. She always believed that when she no longer had the strength to take care of herself, her children would be the first to be by her side, just as she had always been there when they needed her. That was the only hope she kept in her heart, a deep and intense faith in family, in the children she had painstakingly raised. However, life sometimes does not go as we imagine, and Lydia could not have anticipated that her faith would soon face great challenges she had never thought of. One day, while Lydia was enjoying the tranquility in her familiar home, her daughter and son unexpectedly announced a decision that she could never have imagined. They said that after much thought, they had come to the conclusion that she could no longer live alone, and therefore she would have to move into a nursing home. These words were like a shock to Lydia. She couldn't understand why her children made this decision. She felt like something was breaking inside her heart. However, when she saw their worried faces, she suddenly realized that perhaps they truly cared about her health. The children might not understand her feelings, but she still trusts their kindness. Although Lydia's heart ached, she didn't want to hurt her children, so she just silently listened to them. Both children explained that recently she had been having health issues, and they were worried that if she lived alone, no one would be able to take care of her promptly when needed. The son said, "Mom, we just want the best for you. Mom, going to the nursing home will be much safer for you." And the daughter, with a gentle yet firm tone, continued, "We don't want you to face any more risks. This is the best decision. You will be well taken care of there." Lydia, although she had some doubts in her heart, could not refuse. She thought that the children had certainly thought carefully about this decision. She thought that she was receiving care and attention, and this decision was simply because they were worried about her. She told herself that when she moved into the nursing home, she would no longer have to worry about daily chores, and her children would be able to focus on their own lives. But deep down, Lydia felt that something was wrong, as if a part of the family bond had changed in a way she couldn't comprehend. The next day, while Lydia was still dazed in the nursing home room, her daughter and son left without a word of explanation. They didn't inform her in advance about the plan to sell the house, where Lydia had lived for so many years, and of course, they didn't mention anything about taking all her possessions. A sense of disappointment filled Lydia's heart, but she could not imagine what awaited her ahead. In the first few days at the nursing home, Lydia tried to adapt to her new life. Although she was well taken care of in terms of health, she still felt lost and lonely. The meals no longer have the warmth of family. The afternoons no longer have the gentle breeze blowing through the windows of the beloved home. She gradually realized that life here was not as she had imagined, not as her children had said. Then one day, when Lydia accidentally flipped through a newspaper left by her daughter, she was startled to see the information about selling her house. The place she had been attached to, the one filled with countless warm memories with her children, no longer belonged to her. Lydia was stunned, feeling as if the ground beneath her feet had suddenly collapsed. She couldn't believe that her children could do such a thing. The questions kept flooding her mind. Why are they doing this? That house is not just a place to live, but my entire life. How could they sell it without any explanation? Lydia felt as if her entire world was collapsing. She had sacrificed so much, dedicating her entire life to raising and caring for them. Yet now, the children she had trusted and loved turned their backs on her coldly. The painful feeling of betrayal surged within Lydia. Her whole life she had lived for her family, but now she had to face a harsh reality. The people she had once placed her absolute trust in had hurt her in ways she could never have imagined. She had no words left to say, only an emptiness that could never be filled. Life in the nursing home for Lydia was a harsh change that she had never imagined. In the early days, she tried to find comfort in the care of the staff here, but gradually she realized that everything was just a superficial substitute for the family affection she had lost. Every morning when Lydia wakes up, she only sees the cold four walls around her, no longer hearing the laughter of her children, no longer feeling the warmth of family meals. Every day, she feels her loneliness growing. The quiet afternoons with no one to talk to, no one to ask if she was well. The people around her, though friendly, still cannot fill the void in her heart. Lydia remembers her house, remembers every little corner that witnessed so many sweet memories with her family. The paintings hanging on the walls, the old chairs where she used to sit every evening, all now seem like distant ghosts. The most painful thing is the absence of the children. Lydia can't stop missing them. Every night, while others easily drift off to sleep, she lies awake, thinking about the children she had devoted her entire life to raising. Why could they bring her here and then abandon her so coldly? How many years have you spent teaching them, protecting them, and now you have to face the truth that no one visits you, no one calls to check on you? Months went by, and Lydia only received a few brief calls from her children, but the words exchanged lacked any warmth. Merely empty small talk. Each passing day, she increasingly felt that she had entered a stage of life where there was no longer any hope for the help and love of her family. Lydia began to realize that her hope in her children was just a distant dream. Now she has to face the pain of loneliness, having to cope with the disappointment of no longer having anyone by her side to share joy and sorrow. The feeling of being abandoned, forgotten, clings to her persistently, making each day in the nursing home a greater challenge than ever. One day, as Lydia was sitting in her nursing home room, overwhelmed by a sense of loneliness, she unexpectedly received a phone call. A lawyer from another city informed her about a large inheritance she had just received from a distant relative who had passed away long ago. Lydia couldn't believe her ears, but after verifying the information, she confirmed it was true. A sum of money large enough to change her life. Although she could not get back the beloved house she had lost, this inheritance could help her live the rest of her life without financial worries. Nevertheless, Lydia did not feel joy. Instead, a strange bitterness arose within her. This money comes too late when she has lost everything most precious in her life, her home, and the children she loved and raised. She wondered, is my life only valuable when I have money? Will my children come to me just because of an inheritance I just received? As soon as they heard about the inheritance, Lydia's children, who had not visited her for a long time and had neglected her in the nursing home, suddenly returned with caring gestures and words of apology. They brought fresh bouquets and sweet apologies, promising to take better care of her in the future. It seemed that this apology came too late, but Lydia couldn't help but feel a glimmer of hope, however faint it might be. But she quickly realized that behind this sudden concern, there was calculation. Her children did not come out of love, but for money. They realized that the money from selling the house they had seized did not bring them the happiness they had imagined. The material possessions they took from her could not fill the emptiness in their souls, and now Lydia has become their lifeline for their financial needs. The feeling of betrayal once again choked Lydia. Children only come back when they need money, when they realize that life cannot be based solely on the material possessions they have taken. Their apologies now sound distant and insincere, making her feel like a pawn in the game of life, where she has no power to decide. She wondered if there was anything left to salvage this relationship, or if the loss in family affection was too great to repair. Lydia, despite the deep pain and hurt, remained calm when facing the insincere apologies of her children. Her heart shattered once again as she witnessed the deceit in the eyes of those she had once loved the most in the world. However, this time, she did not allow herself to be weak or soft-hearted in the face of their sweet yet empty words. With a calm yet resolute voice, she bluntly refused her children's requests. She looked deeply into the eyes of each child, as if wanting to etch this moment forever, then spoke, "My children, no apology, whether sincere or fake, can erase what you have done. What I have lost is not just the house or the possessions. That is the trust, the hope, the entire life of Mother. You have taken everything away, and that cannot be compensated with mere words of apology." The silence enveloped the room as Lydia's words rang out, clear and sharp. She did not shout, nor did she shed a tear. All those emotions had long since run dry, leaving her with only a cold, unwavering resolve. "Now, I just want to live peacefully, alone, without any interference or fake concern from you," Lydia continued. "If you truly regret, take a good look at yourselves and change your lives. Don't expect your mother to forgive or accept your return for any reason." From that moment on, Lydia decided not to allow anyone, even her own children, to invade her life ever again. She immediately contacted a lawyer to establish an independent financial plan, ensuring that not a single penny from the inheritance would fall into her children's hands. All the assets were transferred into a trust fund, supporting single mothers and elderly people, those whom she truly felt needed help, just as she had once longed to be helped by her own family. Lydia also requested the nursing home to help her find a more private living space, where she could live freely without being bound by the pains of the past. She began to learn how to take better care of herself, finding joy in reading, writing, and connecting with new friends at the nursing home. Inside Lydia, a new fire had been ignited. She promised herself that the rest of her life would no longer be governed by the suffering or selfishness of others. She chose to rise from the losses, not just to continue living, but to live strongly and meaningfully. Lydia knew that forgiveness could be a gift for those who truly repent, but she also realized that not everyone deserves to receive that gift. And for her, forgiving her children is no longer a choice. It is impossible. After many sleepless nights, Lydia made a groundbreaking decision for the rest of her life. She understood that forgiving or trying to hold on to broken relationships only brought more suffering. Therefore, she is determined to redirect her strength and resources to where they are truly needed, the orphan children, those who are not fortunate enough to grow up in the love of a family. Lydia began contacting charities and orphanages to find out how the inheritance could make the biggest impact. After much consideration, she decided to establish a fund to support education and welfare for children. This fund will bear her name, not to honor her, but to remind everyone that true love is not something to be bargained or traded. She also wrote a letter to the Fund Management Board explaining why she chose this path. In the letter, Lydia emphasized that she wanted to give a chance to unfortunate children so they could have a brighter future, something she had always hoped her own children would understand and appreciate. After completing the asset transfer procedures, Lydia wrote a final letter to her children. The letter did not contain any blame or resentment, but rather a clear and straightforward explanation of her decision. "My dear children, I have dedicated my entire life to loving, caring for, and sacrificing for you, hoping that my love will inspire you to cherish family and the true values in life. But that did not happen. The money that Mother left is not meant for you, because Mother realized that you have lost the most precious thing, love and respect for the family. Mother hopes that this decision will make you reflect and realize that money cannot replace genuine love. Mother wishes you find the right path in life. And even though I cannot forgive, I still hope you find peace in your hearts. Love, Mother. With this final decision, Lydia felt a relief she had never experienced before. She was no longer bound by past pains, but instead felt a sense of freedom, knowing that she had done the right thing. In the remaining days, Lydia focused on living fully. She spent time on herself, enjoying the small things like sunlight through the window, a fragrant cup of tea, or meaningful conversations with new friends. Her life, though deeply wounded, finally found the light and tranquility she had always sought. Lydia took her last breath on a peaceful morning as the sunlight streamed through the window of her small room at the nursing home. There were no tears, no loved ones by her side, but she departed in tranquility and peace. Her soul has transcended suffering, loss, and betrayal, leaving behind a legacy not of wealth, but of profound lessons in love, justice, and dignity. Lydia's final decisions were not only punishments for her children, but also symbols of self-affirmation. She is no longer a mother who endures injustice, but has become a strong woman who dares to confront and stand up for what is right. Lydia's story is a profound reminder that betrayal and selfishness not only hurt others, but also leave irreplaceable voids in the soul of the perpetrator. Her children, although they received forgiveness in the form of the final letter, must live their lives with the burden of regret and loss, the loss of their mother's true love, which can never be bought back. From Lydia, we learn that love and compassion must stem from sincerity. Unconditional sacrifices are not always rewarded, but what matters is that one should never allow others to exploit or harm their own worth. Lydia's life ended not just as a story of an individual, but as a lesson for all of us on how to treat family, how to cherish spiritual and emotional values over material ones. Lydia did not need wealth or fame to make her mark. She left behind the most valuable legacy, the courage to uphold righteousness and genuine love for those who truly needed it. We, the listeners of her story, should remind ourselves that life will be more meaningful when we live with love, compassion, and sincerity. What we do today can create ripples, not only in our own lives, but also in the lives of others. Lydia Petrovna's story concludes with a message of respect, sacrifice, and compassion. She teaches us that no matter how the world changes, true values never change. Betrayal can be painful, but forgiveness and compassion are the most valuable things.